What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome to a very special episode between Doug from Not Your Status Quo and, of course, our good friend Chris from Fatherly Fandom.
Welcome, guys. Chris here from Fatherly Fandom. So thanks for having me on, Doug. It's great to finally meet you quasi face-to-face here. Big fan of the show, so small-time YouTuber here. Can't wait to talk to you about the Darksabers and unboxing them. So
I definitely can't wait to hear you talk about the Darksaber. I absolutely love your videos. You go into some amazing deep history about the Mandalorians, and you've touched on Darksaber already in a couple of your videos, and I cannot stress enough how much all of you need to check out Fatherly Fandom's videos. Excellent detail in not only episodes of The Mandalorian, of the Clone Wars, and of the Bad Batch, and a bunch of other Star Wars awesomeness. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this up into two videos. We're going to do a special unboxing, and we're also going to talk a little bit of history of the Darksaber.
yes, we are. It's going to be a lot of fun, so can't wait. Ready to get started here?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right.
And with a little bit of space magic. All right. Use the Force, Chris.
Yes.
All right, so we are here. As we mentioned, we're going to be doing an awesome unboxing. We've got a couple of Darksabers here in preparation, obviously, for Mandalorian, because it's probably going to be, you know, the Mandalore, King of Mandalore, probably wielding the Darksaber, or at least accidentally, probably fight with the Bo-Katan. But yeah, we're going to do a bit of an unboxing because we've got two replicas that were given to us. We've got the Hasbro Black Series, and we also have the Galaxy's Edge version. So I can't wait to break into these boxes. I got both of them unopened. I'm going to crack them open. We're going to take a look.
Wait, you were given these?
I was given these.
Oh my, really? Oh, dude, that is awesome. That is so awesome. So while we're unboxing, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about the history. And I kind of wanted to first start off on the behind the scenes. I don't know if you know this, Doug, but behind the scenes. So the Darksaber was first introduced in Clone Wars. And when they were developing, the first episode it was on was the Mandalore plot. And when they were developing the episode, it was actually not supposed to be a Darksaber, a lightsaber type of weapon. It was going to be a vibro blade. And if you guys don't know what a vibro blade is, it's that one that obviously vibrates that the Mandalorian uses against the Mudhorn in the first season of the Mandalorian. So they were actually going to use a vibro blade against a lightsaber. But George Lucas at the time, he was like, I don't like that idea of anything going up against a lightsaber that's not a lightsaber. So he suggested it, and they went ahead and came back with the Darksaber. So this very unique weapon, this ancient weapon. And so that's why we got the Darksaber in Star Wars. So I absolutely love it. I don't know about you, Doug, but man, I remember watching that episode on Cartoon Network for the first time and seeing this weapon, and I was like, oh my God, that is so cool. And so we first see it on, like I said, Clone Wars, and Pre Vizsla is the guy who wields at it first. And in that episode, Obi-Wan Kenobi, he goes to the planet Mandalore. And at the time, like I remember when seeing Mandalore for the first time too, I was really confused about like why they were pacifists and neutral and everything. And it was so crazy. I was like, what's going on here? It was very confusing to me, but the planet was all about being pacifist and not being part of the war. And I was like, that's not Mandalorians, because, you know, we know the Mandalorians from Boba Fett and everything else. So
right,
it's crazy.
Anytime that they appeared, like in alternate, you know, in comics and books, they always were a warlike species, right?
Yeah, and so we were finding out at the time, like, and you know, there is a ton of lore and history and things like that, and that's what I was covering on my History of the Mandalorian. And so with all this other stuff out there, I'm like, what's going on here? And with the Clone Wars, we kind of get a new perspective with that. And so these guys are called the New Mandalorian. So apparently before Phantom Menace, there was a civil war with the Mandalorians, with the old Mandalorians that were warlike, and they had the armor and everything like that. And then they had this other faction, which were the new Mandalorians, which took up a pacifist view and everything. And they wanted neutrality because their planet has been devastated by war and things like that. That's why the planet's all like desert white sand and whatnot. And they have those dome cities and they developed that architecture that's all cubic as well. So if you look at the Clone Wars, you'll see a lot of those buildings are cubes and things like that. That's where all that stuff came from.
And isn't that didn't the armor, didn't she mention that to Din Djarin? Didn't she say like that was the reason why Mandalore was turned to glass, or was that somebody else who mentioned that? I remember hearing that in one of those series.
Oh yes, the armor. She mentions that that it was turned like because that's the Night of the Thousand Tears is what she's referring to.
Right,
and
right,
that.
Right.
But yeah, Mandalore. Even before that time, Mandalore had seen tons of battles. I mean, because they are a warfaring, culture as it is, and their honor, like they just love to battle, and you implore honor through battle in this. So they're on there, and these new Mandalorians are a peaceful culture now, and they sequestered all of the people that have the old faction, the old culture, were sequestered to the moon of Concordia. And they apparently at this time in Clone Wars died out, and they were having some issues with this cult group called Death Watch at the time. And there's a lot of history and stuff behind that, and there's stuff in Legends that has been brought in and brought out, and we see in The Mandalorian as well when Boba Fett shows up that we get a little reference to Jaster Muriel. So I'm really hoping at some point we get a little bit more history on the Mandalorian Civil War, because if Jaster Muriel's in there, we get the true Mandalorians as well as Death Watch, as well as the new Mandalorians. But at this point, we only have in canon, we have Death Watch and the new Mandalorians. Those are the ones that fought in the Mandalorian Civil War in canon. And so they've had these, they're basically like a terrorist group for them. And, we see them on Concordia as well.
Right,
and
right. That's one of the moons, right?
Yes, that's the moon of Mandalore. So that's where the first introduction of the Darksaber comes from. Long-winded thing to get us all backing up on through to the Darksaber. So Pre Vizsla is the governor of Concordia, and at the time they didn't know he was the leader of Death Watch, and that this group was actually going. They're kind of like, you can kind of liken them to, I don't know, the KKK or anything like that. These underground guys that are, present themselves in public as the good guys, and then all of a sudden they have these rally meetings behind the scenes.
They're secretly extremists, right? But
yeah,
they try to convince people, oh well, we actually remember the old ways, and things would be better if we returned to a certain time,
right,
the way that that we did things.
Right. Yeah. And so it is kind of confusing too, because when we fast forward to the Mandalorian, there's a lot of honor in the tribe, is what they call them, the Children of the Watch. And I could kind of, we haven't gotten a full explanation of where they actually come from, but I found this really cool information too. Apparently in the French version, the Children of the Watch was translated to, and I'm going to butcher this, guys, I don't really know French, but it's Les Héritiers de la Death Watch. So it actually translates to the heirs of Death Watch. So, Din's covert, his tribe actually comes from Death Watch, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have the ideals of Death Watch as well. They splintered off. You know how like religions go and they splinter off into different factions and things like that.
In fact, going back to what you had said, how it's kind of confusing hearing about these Mandalorians being peaceful and the ones living on Mandalore. That was our thought when we first actually got to know Din Djarin's covert, was the fact that they had the way, right? And none of them were allowed to take off their helmets. And I'm sitting there thinking back, and I'm like, am I misremembering? Did they keep their helmets on all the time in Clone Wars? Like, what is this?
They never did. They were constantly taking them off. And I think Rebels actually was going on at the same time. And we had, Sabine Wren, who barely, used her helmet. So it was confusing at the time. I was like, wow, what is this? So they're definitely a little splinter group off of the main one. And what's funny too is, like, you know, when Din is going out into the universe, he just thinks that all Mandalorians are that way. So he's reintroduced to, like, what? You know, like, you guys take off your helmets when he meets Bo-Katan and the Night Owls as well. So
yeah, I love how anybody who doesn't follow his ideals, well, you're not a true Mandalorian. And he insisted in that one episode, he's like, well, you need to give over your Beskar armor. You guys aren't real Mandalorians. And she looks, oh, you're one of them.
You're one of them. You're one of those cuckoos. You know? So we first get introduced to the Darksaber on Concordia. Pre Vizsla has it. And the reason why Pre Vizsla has this is because Clan Vizsla has had it for thousands of years. And it dates back to 1032 BBY, when the first true Mandalorian Jedi was inducted into the Jedi, which I really want this story. They have not fleshed this out. And there's not a lot of canon history behind this as well. And we get only a couple of mentions. Fen Rao, he's one of the Mandalorian protectors and rebels, actually elaborates on this story when Kanan Jarrus actually shows him the Darksaber. And we'll go over that a little bit later too. But it's really not elaborated too much. But this was a Jedi Mandalorian. I don't know how that works, because they're completely different as far as their cultures go and what they believe in and attachment and whatever. But he was a Jedi, and so he created this Darksaber, and the Darksaber was made out of Beskar, like the hilt and everything like that. So it's a very special Darksaber. And if you look at the Darksaber too, you know, it's all black, and they explain it too, that this is like kind of like a black hole. It kind of absorbs the light around it, and that's why you get that blackness with the white around the edges of it, which is really cool. And, like, I love the design of this thing. It's so freaking awesome.
Now I have to wonder, what do you think he did to his kyber crystal to get it to emanate this like shadowy blade that kind of absorbs light like that?
Right? Yeah, that's a great question. That's something I want to see in the future. And that's why I wish they would go back and give us more shows, more stuff from that time frame as well. And I wonder, like, this is all theory too. I wonder if it's just an interaction between the kyber crystal and the Beskar itself, because, you know, the Beskar obviously can repel lightsabers and everything. We've learned that in the Mandalorian. So I wonder if it's just that sort of interaction that causes this lightsaber to emit a black color like that. And it's one of a kind. It's the only one that's ever been made like that, you know. All the rest are either blue, green, or purple, because, you know, you're
right. You've got Mace Windu's purple because he said, I think a purple lightsaber would be cool.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, he just asked him on set one day, and he's like, oh, we can give you purple. So he's like, yeah. All right, just gotta ask George Lucas and you'll get it. So and so, yeah, let's get unboxing a little bit.
All right. So right here, I have the Galaxy's Edge lightsaber. First off, I love the box that this comes in. It's got kind of this hexagonal shape.
That is so cool.
Very, very well put together. It almost looks like, you know, like I imagine this might be like a little ornate chest or whatever that the Darksaber is in. So let me go ahead and cut open the plastic.
Yeah, I've got the Luke Skywalker Galaxy's Edge lightsaber, and it came in a case, a smaller case than that, but it's hexagonal like that too. So yeah, Pre Vizsla has the Darksaber when we're first introduced to it in Clone Wars about 13 years ago. Isn't that crazy? It's been 13 years since that episode aired. But after that time, Maul comes back into play, and he actually forms an alliance with Death Watch, and they're bringing their crime syndicates together and everything, and they've got a plan to build up this crime organization and whatnot. And eventually, Maul is able to fight Pre Vizsla, and they duel. Maul actually becomes the leader of Mandalore, and that actually splits up the faction of Death Watch. Bo-Katan was actually a part of Death Watch at this time, Bo-Katan Kryze. And if you guys didn't know, Bo-Katan her sister was Sabine Wren, not Sabine Wren, but Duchess Satine, and she was the leader of Mandalore on the planet. And so this splits up those factions.
Obi-Wan's secret girl, obviously.
Oh yeah, Obi-Wan's crush. And if you guys didn't know, the reason why Obi-Wan knows Satine is because of the Mandalorian Civil War. They actually came to help out during that time before the Phantom Menace. So that's when he first was introduced to Satine Kryze on that. So, which is pretty cool. There's another book, Master and Apprentice, awesome book, and it goes into detail with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn's like past and everything. I love that book, and it kind of goes into right before they actually go off to Mandalore, which is awesome.
Is that still canon?
I believe so. Yes, that's a part of canon.
Awesome. I'll have to check that out. Very cool.
That's a newer, yeah, I think it's a newer book. I forget when it came out a couple of years ago. So, all right.
So here we have it, and yeah, as I thought, it is kind of like in this neat little chest. I kind of want you all to see this. Here, I'm gonna slide it across to all slow motion, like I'm a professional. Here we go.
Yeah, and that's the Death Watch symbol right there.
That is, yeah. And opening
which
it
we
up,
actually get to see on the shoulders of the Mandalorians that saved Din Djarin.
Oh, look at that is
nice.
Cool looking. I love how nice this is packed. This is great looking. And it even has a little stand you can put together. This is great. And then it did say a little piece of paper there that said that the blade itself was located underneath the black foam. And that's because a lot of these hilts that come from Galaxy's Edge, I believe you have to buy the blade separate, don't you?
Yes, you do. But this obviously is a different type of blade too, because the Darksaber blade is shorter than the regular lightsaber blade as well. And it actually looks like a real sword blade. It's a lot different than your typical lightsaber. I'm really curious to see the stand.
Some heft to it. Oh my gosh. I was not expecting this. This definitely has some weight. This feels good.
You're fighting against the blade there, Doug.
Right.
As the armorer would say.
Or as when oh my gosh, what's her name? Boy, terrible with names.
Me too. So
when what's her name was good company. Took it from Maul's hidey hole.
Oh, Sabine Wren.
Yes, and was training with it.
Yeah, and so we get that the blade does feel heavier if you're in conflict with the Darksaber, which is really interesting because, like, you know, we talk about Star Wars and, you know, people like to call Star Wars science fiction. It's really not. It's science fantasy, and there's a lot of magic and mysticism to this. And with the Darksaber, you get a lot of that too. There's a lot of magic and mysticism in there. And kyber crystals are actually living things too. They wield the Force. They're a Force conduit, and they actually interact with their user. Same thing with the Darksaber here. It interacts with their user and connects with them. So if there's any, it's basically like the Darksaber is a therapist for if you want to think of it that way. If you have any struggles or conflicts going on inside of you, that will take you out of in tune with the Darksaber. And that's one of the reasons why the Mandalorian Din Djarin was having such a struggle with it, and why it was getting heavier and heavier with it, because he has a lot on him. Same with Sabine Wren. You know, when she was wielding the Darksaber at first, it was very heavy for her. And so we saw that originally in Rebels. And so it was super heavy for her because she was dealing with all these issues about helping out the Empire when she was actually a part of that. And she created a weapon, which she called the Duchess. And I was like, man, you were kind of sadistic calling it, you know, after Satine on that. But it was actually a weapon that targeted Mandalorian Beskar armor, and it would kill you if you were wearing it. So she had a lot of this weight on her, and, you know, getting back to the Mandalorian way and trying to get those factions back together. So she had to work out all her issues before she could actually wield the Darksaber and it grow lighter. So she trained with Kanan Jarrus with that as well. So it's really cool. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why it's got a lot of heft there, Doug. It's a heavy.
Nice. It's because I have so much stress in my life. I need to the Darksaber is going to be like, oh, whoa, buddy. I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Right? Yeah.
All right. Now, before I actually put the blade in, which, by the way, I pulled it out, very cool. It does look
so cool.
different from the Galaxy's Edge blade, from what I can tell. from online. I also don't see any like crackle effect, but also who knows, maybe it'll we'll see it once it
Once
lights
we
up.
light it up.
Yeah, it also the as you can see here, I'll put it close to the camera. The actual black stripe, it does look pretty thin on here. It's
It
got
looks
a
very thin.
lot more
Yeah.
white in there, so we'll have to see what this looks like. But it does take some batteries, and they gave you a little tool here, little Allen wrench to get in here and be able to put the batteries in. All you have to do is go over here to the little knob at the end. Kind of see that, and then unscrew this, and I should be able to get into the bottom then to put in the batteries.
Nice.
But yeah, so far I really like the detail of this. However, and I'll talk a little bit more about this once we you know, get more into it once I light it up, but there are a few things that I did notice about it that are a little off, at least to me, but otherwise it does look really cool. And like I said, it's got a lot of heft to it. I brought a couple of different batteries because the last time I did one of these unboxings, I did an unboxing for the Spangler Neutrona wand, and I forgot batteries.
Ah, were you in the Boy Scouts? Because you're always prepared.
I never made it out of Cub Scouts. We did a couple of those what do you call it, races, the Pinewood Derbies, and then I was like, oh, this is boring.
Yeah. So back to the Darksaber and the history. So I didn't mention this before, but for Tar Vizsla, the Jedi Mandalorian, after his time, he did become the Mandalore, the leader of Mandalore, for a time. And after he passed, the Darksaber actually went back to the Jedi Temple. And eventually, there was another struggle between the Mandalorians and the Jedi. They've been in conflict for years and years. A lot of the weaponry that the Mandalorians developed were specifically to fight Jedi, and that's one of the reasons why they use Beskar as well, because it deflects lightsabers as well.
History lesson. The Jedi won the war with Mandalore. These tricks will amount to something. Maybe save you from time to time, but they won't keep you alive in the long run. Only training and discipline will do that.
And so during one of those conflicts, the Clan Vizsla actually came in, raided the Jedi Temple, and I like, again, can we please see this in live action or in a Clone Wars style animation? I want to see this so bad. I don't know why they just parcel out this fun information and stuff, and I was like, go for it, give us all this information.
You're not wrong. That would be amazing to see in live action. That would be great. You know what? I would even take. I would, like you said, I would even take like a Clone Wars style animation. Just give me that delicious backstory. Yeah, I would love to see that.
They tease it out throughout this stuff, and I'm like, I want more. Give me more. We need more of this stuff. So they go in, they raid the Jedi Temple, which, what an undertaking that takes. Like all these Jedi, 10,000 Jedi in the galaxy, and it's so crazy. But they grab the Darksaber and they're able to take it. So it stays with Clan Vizsla for thousands of years. So it passes from the leader of Clan Vizsla on down and becomes a symbol of the leadership of Mandalore at that time. They're able to unite all the clans under this Darksaber. And if you guys know my videos from the history of the Mandalorian, before this time, they actually had a mask called the Mask of Mandalore, thousands of years. And this is all Legends material too. So who knows if it's actually canon now or if it'll be brought in. But they use the Mask of Mandalore to choose their leader. And so at this time, it has transferred to the Darksaber. So the Darksaber is now the symbol of the leader of Mandalore. And so it passes down through Clan Vizsla. And that's why we see it with Pre Vizsla. And after Pre Vizsla is killed by Darth Maul, which at this time, he's just Maul at this point. I don't think he's a Darth anymore, right? So he never goes by that in Clone Wars.
No, since he you know, he even fought the Emperor with his brother, and you know, he was hoping the Emperor
Savage
Opress.
And this is a big point of contention too, and this is what I want to bring up now. And Maul does fight Pre Vizsla. He gets the Darksaber, and after this time, yeah, the Darth Sidious himself comes out. Oh, Sheev, he comes out to Mandalore to fight Maul because he's getting too strong. He's building up. You know, he's becoming a threat to Darth Sidious, which was awesome. I don't know if you really, like, I loved that episode of Clone Wars.
Oh yeah, I definitely did. It took me a while to get into Clone Wars. I was not watching it right away when it originally aired. Same with Rebels. I was not actually watching that when they originally aired. I didn't start getting into Clone Wars until it appeared on Netflix. And then I was watching it there, and then eventually, once I hate to admit this, once Rebels moved over to Disney Plus, that's when I finally started watching it seriously. The first couple of episodes that I did see when it was airing, it didn't impress me at the time. You know, I was sitting there thinking, I don't like this.
Me either.
He bugs me.
Yeah, and at that time, like, it took me forever to get into Rebels. It took a long time, and I was just like, ugh. And I kept watching it and stopping watching it, and eventually, again, like the same thing with Clone Wars. Like, it takes a few seasons to get you into it, and then it becomes amazing. So
it really does. Yeah, you're not kidding. Oh, it helps if I screwed this in the right way, huh?
So after that, like, you know, Darth Sidious comes and wipes the floor with Savage Opress and Darth Maul. And so at this point, basically, you know, as far as the Darksaber goes, you have to win it in battle to become the leader of Mandalore. And so at this point, Darth Sidious is actually the rightful heir to Mandalore, but he doesn't really give a crap about that, and he doesn't even take the Darksaber at this point. So he just leaves it there on Mandalore. So a lot of people think they're like, oh well, you know, isn't Palpatine supposed to be the rightful heir to Mandalore? Like he fought Darth Maul, and he got, you know, he has the right to the Darksaber. And
it's funny that you mentioned that. I actually forgot up until a little bit ago that that fight had taken place after he had already claimed the Darksaber. Because I was thinking, you know, as far as point of contention goes, I thought, well, if anybody gets the Darksaber, wouldn't it be Darth Vader? Because if you think about it, Obi-Wan fought Maul, beat Maul, killed him. So you'd think it would pass on to him, but then Vader beats Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And the other really sad thing about the Darksaber too, when Maul had it, is he actually killed the Duchess Satine with it. And so this thing has killed lots of Jedi, and he killed the Duchess right in front of Obi-Wan. Man, that was so tragic too. This guy, if you want to talk about somebody that's been through, you know, the ringer. I mean, we talk about, you know, I don't know about Luke during the sequels. He he goes off on his own because like his Jedi Academy was destroyed by Ben, but it's like, man, if you look at Obi-Wan, he suffered a lot more, bud, than Luke did, and he was able to rally himself back by the end. So I was like, but yeah, side tangent there. But it really, like, the Darksaber has like been used in a lot of really bad stuff. But yeah, Darth Sidious should have taken it, but he didn't at this point. And eventually, the Mandalorians actually recover it from Mandalore and get it back to Maul at that point. So he gets it back into his possession. He actually takes it to Dathomir, and that's where Sabine Wren actually gets it in Rebels. So she finds it over there, and she uses it actually against Ezra Bridger when she's possessed by the Night Sisters at this point. And so she doesn't earn it by battle to begin with, but she eventually does earn it because she fights Gar Saxon, and she defeats him, and her mom actually kills Gar Saxon at that point. And so she's actually the rightful heir to the Darksaber at that point. And then we get to the point where the Sabine Wren gives it to Bo-Katan, and Bo-Katan begrudgingly accepts it because all the different factions of Mandalore, the clans of the Mandalorians, will rally behind her as the leader. So she accepts it at that point to fight against the Empire. And so we learn in The Mandalorian that the armorer says that anybody that doesn't win it through battle, it will bring a curse upon Mandalore. And if you think about it, like, this is, and I'm thinking about it too, is like, if you think about it, like everything that happened to Maul, his whole criminal organization fell apart, and he eventually dies and everything. And it does kind of happen like that. Like, he lost the Darksaber to Darth Sidious, and then he takes it back. So really, is he cursed? That's a good question.
Yeah, you know, there is something to that. It makes you wonder, does does wielding the Darksaber have a curse? Because not only, you know, do you think about it in like a sort of space wizardy aspect where, you know, oh, well, maybe it's bringing some sort of darkness around it, but also whoever has it, they're constantly being challenged because it does carry with it that, you know, that right to rule, at least so far, you know, if it's not like the mask, it's the Darksaber. It carries that right to rule with it. And so if you've got it, people are going to want to challenge you.
Absolutely. Like they're coming for your head if you have the Darksaber. And so we find that out too. Like, and we know from what we've learned in The Mandalorian as well that, you know, Bo-Katan's rule didn't last very long. And that's when we get the Night of 1,000 Tears and the big Mandalorian purge with the Empire. And all this information, like we very scant when it comes to what we know during this time. We know that Moff Gideon took a part, he was a part of the purge of the Mandalore. And so at some point during this time, that's when Moff Gideon was able to retrieve the Darksaber. So that's all we know. And so, you know, the original trilogy happens, and then 9 ABYs when the Mandalorian takes place. Hey, puppy. And we and Moff Gideon has it at this point. So we see it at the finale of the Mandalorian season 1, which, oh my God, man, when that dropped and I saw that blade come out of the TIE fighter, I just lost my mind.
Oh, so did I. I was thinking, oh my God, that is incredible. Like, and I needed to know more right then and there. Like, how did he get his hands on that thing?
I know. I was just like, oh my God, what? How is this possible? And I never knew. I was like, man, I didn't think they were ever going to be able to pull off the Darksaber in live action, because it just looked like it's a very interesting looking thing in Clone Wars, and the way it moves, the way it operates is kind of cartoony. And so when it was introduced in the Mandalorian finale, I was just like, oh man, they did it, and they did it right. It looked great.
I agree. I think it looked amazing. And I gotta say, like, looking at this does look really cool. But also, I'm like a giant nerd, and I'm geeking out over how cool this thing looks. So I just inserted the blade. It only goes in one way, and like you were saying,
that's good. Woo!
Look at that! Oh, I love that effect. It's a little slow, but that was pretty sweet. And it does have a little bit of a crackle. It's hard to see because I've got my light on. And it does make the noise when you move it.
I do like how that blade actually comes out at the hilt as well. That's very accurate to what the Darksaber actually looks like. And it's a lot sharper on the end too. So I very much like that. That's very accurate.
This is pretty good. The only thing that I will say that is a little bit different, and you know, I'd have to look at another image from how it appears in live action, but the way you know, compared to the hilts from Clone Wars and from Rebels, I believe there's like a lot more silver in the hilt, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm not sure how it is in live action and which one. I believe this one is called like the Mandalorian Darksaber, so I believe that's what they based it on. I'd have to take a look again at an image, which means that, oh boy, I'm gonna have to watch some Fatherly Fandom videos and actually take a look back and see more about the Darksaber and what it looked like in real life. In real life, in my favorite space wizard show.
Yeah. If these existed in real life, a lot of people would be limbless.
Like, could you imagine?
Or lifeless.
The hand pile.
Right? Crazy.
All right. So what do you think how about I shut off the light and actually ignite this thing and see how it looks?
Do it. Let's see it. There you go. How's the sound? I can't hear it.
It sounds pretty good. It's not bad. Try and get it a little bit closer to the microphone so you can hear it.
Yeah, it's not picking it up.
But yeah, it's not too bad. Like, it sounds pretty close.
That's awesome.
I wonder now, what if I hit it? It doesn't seem to react when I strike so much. Oh, there it goes. So I guess you got to hit it hard. So wow, okay.
You got to really battle with it, Doug.
You really do. Boy, someone going to challenge me for the throne of Mandalore?
That's right. Gonna have to now.
But yeah, so it doesn't have like a drawn crackle effect, but the way it's kind of strobing in the blade, it kind of simulates that, and I appreciate that.
Simulates it?
Yeah. I did notice one other thing, and I don't know if this is on purpose or not, but you can kind of see where the kyber crystal would be in here. Only two of the chambers are lit up, and I don't know why the other two aren't.
Do you think that? Oh, I mean, you just put in new batteries, so that's probably not, you know, battery life or one.
Literally just the way that the blade is. Only goes down so far.
Yeah, you're probably right. That's as far as the actual blade goes in. So awesome. And if you guys notice too, the Darksaber sound, the sound of the Darksaber is a pitch higher than a regular lightsaber too. So I love the difference in the sound. So they really crafted something very unique when it came to the Darksaber from the beginning of this, and that's what I absolutely love, and that's why it's so special too. It's really a really cool thing.
I have to wonder, do you think its unique sound came from, as you stated, its origins as being a vibro blade?
You know what? Yeah, that probably was. They probably already had that sound engineered, ready to go for production. And, you know, as George Lucas does, he comes in, he's like, hey, I like this thing. Let's change that up real quick. So it probably was. And if you listen to the vibro blades in Mandalorian, it kind of sounds very similar. That's a great point there, Doug.
All right. So I am going to struggle to put this base together that it
struggle bus.
Oh my gosh.
I am really curious about the stand.
Can I literally not figure out how to put two pieces of plastic together, really?
You got this. I believe in you.
I'll use the Force.
Yeah. And so back to like the Darksaber and the curse that you would instill on that if you didn't win it in battle. Like, yeah, I think that there is some credence to that thought. And that's one of the reasons why Bo-Katan refuses to take it in the finale of season 2, because, you know, she knows what happened. She knows when she took that without winning it in battle, the Empire destroyed the planet and she lost it. And then, you know, Mandalorians were wiped out throughout the galaxy. You know, there's only a few scatterings of Mandalorians left. I don't know about you, Doug. Do you want to see Din become the leader of Mandalore? Or do you want to see like Bo-Katan take on that helm, or Boba Fett, or who do you want to see rule Mandalore?
Honestly, I don't think I would like to see Din do it, only because he seems easily distracted by like minor things that I think he would you know, and I don't know that he would be into or as dedicated to leading the rest of the Mandalorians. He doesn't at least not at this point, you know, in his career. He doesn't seem the type to come off as like, oh yeah, I'm ready to make like a bunch of you know, sign a bunch of papers and figure out, you know, like trade and rule over and figure out like, you know, who's going to go where and what sort of fix the planet, re-engineer our domes and like I don't
all
see
the
him ready to
administration
take
stuff
on that kind of role.
Well, that's why you have like, you know, a chancellor or something like that. You just let that guy do all this, and you do all the fun stuff. You go off and do battles. That's what I wonder too, is like, what role does the leader of Mandalore actually play in the government of Mandalore as well? So,
oh, you know, that is actually a good question. It seems like at least when it was peacetime Mandalore, it seems like Satine, that she was like kind of welcoming dignitaries, and I think she was a lot of a figurehead. It seemed like that's what she came off as. She was mostly there as a figurehead. I don't know how many laws she was actually in charge of making, or if she let her chancellor do most of that, or her prime minister do most of that.
Oh yeah, prime minister. Yeah, that's what it seemed like. It seemed like, and you know, like with the United Kingdom as well, you know, you have that figurehead of the queen, now the king, and then you have the prime minister actually running the government. So maybe it would be the same thing too for Din if he does become the leader of Mandalore. He's just the figurehead in, you know, and lets a prime minister handle everything else. There we go. So look at that.
Here's what it looks like in its stand. Obviously, you're going to want to take the blade out first, but yeah, it's not a bad stand. It's a little little flimsy plastic, you know, but it looks very nice. And yeah, once I pop the blade out, which actually
that's
very easy to
nice.
pop out. There's a little button right here. Bring that a little closer. Right here, just click that, pop the blade
That's
out.
a plus. That is a major plus on this.
And then yeah,
on this version.
Sits right there. I think
Beautiful.
you can see it. And then we've got little Grogu here who's ready to grab onto it. And you know what? Maybe Grogu is going to be the Mandalore.
Oh, maybe. You know, he's got a lot of time to take on that role. Hopefully he has a lot of time. So
true. Hopefully.
Yeah. And that's why, you know, I think that they had him leave Luke right away too, is they didn't want people to be like, no, Ben's gonna kill him. You know.
Oh, God. Imagine having to live through like 2 Order 66s.
Right. Gosh,
okay.
yeah.
I made it through the Jedi Purge, and then Ben Solo comes along. Oh no, another Jedi Purge.
He's like, this again? Gosh. Another Skywalker too, destroying the Jedis.
Right. What are the odds?
Yeah, right? All right, so we got it assembled. Woo!
We did. So what do you think of this one?
I like that a lot. I like the fact that you can take out the blade right away. That's awesome. That's a big bonus on that one. And I couldn't hear the sound too well, but the lighting of it looks pretty good. And like I said, the blade itself looks more accurate to what we see on screen as well. When it comes to the shape, I like that a lot too. So
I agree. Yeah, I love the sharpness of it. And yeah, you know, I thought I would be bothered by how thin the black stripe was, but I really am not. Because like I said, the strobing effect that they have in the actual white part around the blade, I think that makes up for it, because again, it kind of simulates if it was crackling, which, you know, you can't replicate what a cartoon looks like. And whether you're talking, you know, Rebels, or you're talking about even the CG in Mandalorian.
Yeah, our holographic technology has not come far enough for us to simulate the actual crackling. So one day, maybe one day we might get that, right, puppy? Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, we're gonna do 2 parts with this. So if you've enjoyed this first part, there's a second. So we're gonna head on over there, hyperdrive on over to Fatherly Fandom.
Hey fellow nerds, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of this stuff, make sure that you check out our Twitch stream. We try to do these live Sunday or Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Keep an eye on our social media to find out when you can join in live and chat with us during these live streams. Also, as usual, don't forget to check out our other social media. Add us at Twitter, comment down below, and we'll see you next time right here on Not Your Status Quo.